Hello world! Sorry if the stream kept restarting. I've gotten a couple of calls, or I guess texts, of people saying, hey, it says it's starting in a moment, and then it says 10 minutes later. Well, what happened is I originally set the stream for 4, and then I moved it to 5:33 or something like that. So, I don't know, I guess that's what happens. YouTube just bumps it along. So I am so sorry for those of you whom are still waiting. And I realize I have chocolate on my mouth. Very professional, Alex. So let's flip this view around. How's it going, everybody? What I wanted to show you out here first before we go inside is just got this stand for a 40-gallon. My wife liked this stand with the storage below. So the rimless will be going on this. This is kind of like a particle board thing, but it's made by Top Fin, designed to hold 40 gallons, and it meets the dimensions of my rimless almost perfectly. So that's good. Even though it's made for a 40 breeder, it's made with an extra lip around it, and so it actually fits my new rimless 46 gallon or whatever really well, which I'll show you also shortly. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about bigger setups, bigger aquariums, and we're going to do that. So also, just thought I would mention wrapping up this mess. These trees are losing pollen at an astonishing rate. I don't know if you guys can see that. My wife washed her car yesterday. So I don't know if you got look at the pollen in the ponds here. So these were just the Rubbermaid ponds, obviously. Just pulled the last shrimp out today. At least I hope it's the last one. Got down to 33 degrees. Got another tank over there in my wife's potting mess. Um, and I have some plans for that too. So, in any case, we're going to talk about, instead of nano tanks today, we're going to talk about like medium sized tanks. And if you know me, you know that I like actually still doing pretty nano stuff, but this tank is going to be actually, it'll still have some nano fish and critters in it, but it probably won't have shrimp as much as that pains my heart because I think we're going to do angelfish. So this is also a funny sight when they picked up, or when I picked this up and put it in the car. It's pretty heavy, so they offered to help, and I was like, sure, because of my back. And so we were carrying it, and he's like, "You got a fishing pole? Are you gonna catch what you're putting in your tank?" So I just thought that was kind of funny, because I totally could. Um, the sun is setting upon us, upon the British Empire, once British Empire, American Empire, if you will. It's kind of crazy off in the distance when the wind has blown today. You can see pollen leaving the trees and bushes just in these big dust balls. So let's go back inside. I hope the transition is okay because I think we're on not on wireless right now. I think since we're out of the house and everything, I think that we will need to hop onto the wireless, and hopefully that'll give a seamless transaction. But if I lose you all, then beg my pardon, and my pumpkins, and my little dog too. And we'll talk about tanks. We'll say our hellos. Hello, everybody. I know with these live streams, usually kind of wait about 7 or 8 minutes for people to hop in, and I know I already changed the time once an hour ago, so that's some gremlins in the machinery of why it said starting soon and then move the time. The other thing is, I was gonna say, hey, it's my shadow. Hi, shadow. The other thing I was gonna tell you guys is that I am starting uh, again, hopefully, to do Wednesdays and Sundays, or Wednesdays and Saturdays. Trying to do live streams on those days at two different times, one afternoon and one evening, or something like that. Again, soon. Had a lot of health issues, and yeah, so just thought I'd get the last of the sunset with you guys. While we're waiting for everyone to filter in, how's everybody doing, by the way? Jace Parker, hello. Goose Not Maverick, hello. I'm glad you caught it. Pugimus Maximus, hello. David Rayner, Lightning Strike, no. Fake name, what's up? J-Rad, Iron Man, hello. Nola Jane, how's it going down in Nola? Jason, what's up, buddy? Rico, hello. So, roll call, hello, everybody that's hopping in. Let's go inside and look at some fish. If I lose you again, obviously, I'll just reboot this little stream. But I had, like I said, the point of this was just to show you this and that the ponds have wrapped up. I'll show you what I brought inside. Also, the fish that I was breeding all summer out there, they're all inside now, too. So, let's go inside. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I'm glad you could make this one too, Melissa Graves. Hello. All right. Sorry. Lighting's probably gonna change, so boom into the dark lighting. Blair Witch style, making everyone sick. All right, guys. So, here we go. Here is the nice new rimless UNS. You can see that it is it's got the beveled edge, so no sharp corner. Kind of cool. I like that about their tanks. But 40-gallon UNS. So it's going to be set up, but as I've been doing this, I've been pulling out all sorts of extra lights and hey, thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. Alan, you've given me enough money on this over the last few months that I should be able to pay for my darn light already now, shouldn't I have? But apparently I am a slacker, and part of the money went to just, I don't know, existing and keeping the fish room up and running. But in here, if you saw my red root floater video, you saw that I kind of detangled some of this tank. There's a little more space for some fish. In here you can see one of my tricks that I use on my bigger tanks, which is I take lava rock, put it in a filter media bag, and you can see over time the catfish have actually exposed the top of the bag. They dig around in the substrate, and you can see it's all a pile right here. But that's kind of the trick I'll probably use on the next aquascape on the UNS here. So it'll be going upstairs, but we'll be doing something fun, hopefully, with the center mound of it. Let's see here. Something is still dripping. I had a drip over here. I had the drips going on, but I'll have to figure that one out. In any case, so when you have a bigger tank, you gotta figure out what you want to do with it as far as filtration and things like that. And hey, Alan, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the super chats. That really does help right now. All right, let's get real for a sec. So part of the problem lately with the punctuality and I'm only doing like 2 videos a week lately usually, has just been my health. I've just been having a lot of health issues one after another, and yeah, it's just been rough. So I apologize for that. I have lots of ideas in the works. I even have a bunch of videos that I filmed and then I watched them later and I'm like, that's not that interesting. So yeah, FishTube, what is up? Bearded Bob's Fish Room, bearded fish keepers. Christy Hayes, hey, animal lover as well, and Alan. Everybody's joining the party tonight. That's cool. So the thing I was gonna say is, yeah, I apologize that I have been less than punctual lately. Wednesdays and Sundays, hopefully, will be when I do the streams in the future. Probably Wednesdays around 4, sometime between 3 and 5. I haven't decided. Might have to dial that in. And then Sundays, probably, it will be the other day, unless Saturdays works better for you guys. But I will probably be doing that in, like, maybe I'll do that one earlier, and then the other one later. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But I just wanted to say my apologies. So everybody who's watching right now, if watching this later, you're probably like, "Shut up, Alex, stop rambling. I didn't even know you were gone." So I will cease this, but I just wanted to let you know I'm getting all these teeth and implants done since the lightning strike. They're all gone now. All the ones that needed to be taken care of. But now I'm missing all these teeth, and I've had to get gum graft replacements, and the top of my mouth had a hole in it that went into my sinus, so they had to patch that, and my sinuses. And so then the other thing they're working on is I have an injury to my pituitary gland, apparently. I thought since I was all grown up it didn't matter, but apparently it messes up your sleep and other things. So we've been sorting that out. That's the deal, and it's just made a lot of appointments and a lot of just kind of busy nights and discussing finances and whatnot. So that's why this tank has taken a little bit of time also. First, the tank, I couldn't get it for a while, and then, yeah. But you guys tuned in to talk about mid-sized tanks. So let's get into that. So with mid-sized tanks, I think that starts in my mind around 29 gallons. You could say 20 longs too, because you can do quite a bit with a 20 long, but you need to know what you're doing. You need to have kept the type of fish you're going to keep in the 20 long in a bigger aquarium, in my opinion. Like if you're going to do angelfish in a 20 long or in a 20 gallon tall, for instance, you're going to want a smaller fish. Maybe that's a small grow out or fry tank. Maybe you just have one angel or a pair in there. And then you've got some other, Danios or Tetras or something like that. But I think when we get to the size over 29 gallons, that's when you start really getting into I can keep bigger fish, whether that's a school of fish or whether that is a large species or a territorial species, something like puffers or, something like cichlids in general. So I think the 40 breeder, in my mind, is one of the better bargains for space, for the things they make for its size. You can do hang off the back, you can do canisters. I always customize my hang off the backs where I kind of set my own filter media. You can probably see there's different levels of two different types of sponges, and then this and that. And then this one over here is actually, I closed off the floodgate and it's not working as a, Jay Blair, go get yourself a nice set of guppies, kid. I appreciate that, Jay. I really do. So basically this filter here, it should be flowing out of this side, right? But it started just kind of pumping the water up and coming back out because the filter media got folded over by accident. And actually that was just fine because I've got this filter working. I've also got air hoses. Let's stop zooming in. I've got air hoses going in, and then I've got two small heaters on either side. And this started out as an hill stream tank. And so these were both just flowing. This was scooted into this corner. This was scooted that way. And it caused kind of like a spiral whirlpool almost. And I had power heads in either corner. And so that made it a pretty quick tank when I first had it. And we had the large manzanita in the center. But as things have calmed down, as I've gotten a lot of these fish have been sold off and things like that, we've got a lot of Corridoras in here still at least 20 of them in the bottom of here. We've got a lot of grow out plecos. They create a lot of biomatter. And then if we hang tough here for a sec, you'll see some of my Danios are in there still. And then also my red eye lemon tetras and one beautiful little guppy hanging out, plus all my Speaking of nanofish, all of my little batis are in here too. So all those scarlet batis that I bred, they're still in here. So you don't see them usually except at night, and then I'll see them come out and they'll kind of forage along the lines in here. Sometimes you'll see them in the moss in here. You can see the cories in here right now. I started with 5 or 6 of the Corridora of the panda cories, and now there are at least, here's another one just sitting calmly. Now there are at least 2 dozen that have been in the tank. Oh, there's right here is a Batis. So this went from a fast flowing tank to a slow flowing tank over the break when I went down to Florida. Look at the little Batis. Look at his eyes. Come out from the moss. He's eating little bugs that just live in the tank, little Daphnia type things, seed shrimp, and he's just hanging out. Watch him for a sec. Does Monte Carlo require CO2? That's a great question. If you were to glue it to bonsai driftwood tree, how would you make it successful in a low tech tank? All right, so the main thing with a bonsai driftwood tree, you just want to make sure that when you're setting it up, so like if you take some driftwood, upstairs I've got a better version of it right now, but I've done it a bunch of times now. You just want to make sure that you've got the growth direction of the moss in the way that you would like it set up. So I know that may sound confusing, but moss has a kind of a grain to it, or a growth pattern. You know, it goes this way, or this piece comes up and around. And so you want to cut those, and then you can super glue them onto wood. I think I might have something over here that's closer to that setup. Where do we have? So here we have like even algae that's on sticks and stuff. And this started as a moss one. But basically you want to just glue that on carefully along the edge of the stick, and you want to pick a side of the sticks, and you run that moss along in a line. And if you look at it and it looks like a tree limb, so say this is your moss, pretend this thing is your moss, and it branches out this way when you get a little clump of it, then you'd want to glue that lengthwise on there. And that really helps the growth pattern. It doesn't have to like find its way. Like this moss here. Sorry, this glass is dirty. I didn't know we'd be looking at these tanks, honestly. But you see that, how it has kind of a tree branch pattern already? So that is, you glue that center strand on all the bonsai limbs radiating from your central point. And then you would just put it in your tank. And for me, moss doesn't need anything really. From what I've seen, it will grow even down here. This little light has been in the back here, and Pelia and Sawassertang and Crips have been growing, but it's been really slow in the low light Panda Loach tank, and Blue Dream also. But I think the key to making it successful is don't overblast it with light. And then also, you don't want your ferts super high out of control. If you're doing highlight, actually, I've seen moss go wrong a lot more than it go right for a lot of people, just because it's going to catch, one, it's a slow enough grower that moss catches lots of particles in it, which then end up as algae catchers. So just like up here in my shrimp tank, where my excess moss is, you can see there's algae forming at the top, and that's where the light is. Now down below, you get less of that. You get more of just the different types of moss that I have. So it's actually better to be in low light than high light, in my opinion, unless you've got your ferts all dialed perfectly. I think that gluing the tree well in the first time, or even using thread and wrapping that around the branch so that it can grow wherever it wants. Like I was saying, by the way, I split up 6 of the quarries in here, and there's a quarry Hebrosis colony also in here. And as you know, this tank was full of corkscrew Val in here, and it literally I've had enough to fill up that tank down there, and this tank still has this much, and then the top water of that tank with just the shrimp in it up there is covered. Now, on a side note, I don't know why, but these shrimp have been dying off, and I'm really frustrated about it. Uh, it's been I cleaned their mulm and things like that. Preston, John, this is not really a scheduled stream. I mean, it was today. I put it up this morning that I was going to do a stream, but um, I think I will be doing streams on this day. There was a seed shrimp I wanted to show you. So the ecosystem in this shrimp tank now, over a year old, I don't know if you guys can make out these little teeny dots that swim around, but they're like Daphnia and copepods and things like that. That there have been no fish in this tank. Here, let me move. Let me get my handy dandy turkey baster. So let me move some stuff here. This is the one that everyone is like, oh my gosh, there's broken glass in that tank. But the shrimp love eating off the glass, all the surface area that gets all icky, all this old algae covered sawasser tang and stuff like that, and moss from other tanks. I'll throw it up here. They clean it up, and then I put it back in the tank. That being said, though, there used to be at least 50 or 60 shrimp Sakura yellows at a glance, and now you have to kind of like hunt for them. And so I might make a whole video on that, but they're just something's off. When I put water in it and did a big old water change, the TDS was super far off out of the tap. And so they flushed out our local municipal tap system, and that is, I don't know, I think it messed with a lot of stuff. As you can see here, though, I wanted to show you, I still have extra hang off the back filters that I swap media out of, or I keep it cycling sometimes for another tank. Like this little guy is working, yet the other one, hold on, does this look foggy to you guys? Um, so yeah, I'll have bloodstained tannins. Yeah, that broken glass, I don't go just reaching in there, but the baby shrimp really do like that surface area. It was a full bowl in there that I was doing an experiment with, where I was separating the fish, and yeah, it broke, and then I was like, well, I wonder what'll happen if I just leave it. Also, wanted to point out, people ask a lot of times, white cloud minnows survive in warmer tanks. They do. They may live a shorter life, but these ones are living in 75, 76 degree water. Um, you think really, Pugmus Maximus? You think the glass is cutting my shrimp and infecting them and they're dying? I don't know. They were flourishing at first from that. I think the TDS has risen quite a bit. And I think I kind of need to reset the tank, is what I honestly think. And I just don't want to do that right now. It's just a pain, especially since this is a shrimp only tank. Like, I feel like if I take those out, I should put like shellies or another fish in there. But yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say about these tanks is, so the tanks I have so far, what I really like about these 20 longs or the 10s or even the 5s on these racks is I can use the same light, or I mean they're all different. These are all different brands. Here's a Fluval up here, first gen. Then here is some just off brand that has struts to mount above tanks. Down here is another off brand, what is it? A Canson, an older one. Um, and then down here we've got like the Aqueon super low dim, just red and white. light. And so it's been nice to be interchangeable. However, when we get to the 40 gallon, things are less interchangeable. Obviously, you can still use nets and catching containers, and these actually, you can start to use these much more effectively. So, for breeding and things like that, you can use it much more effectively. As I said, I had turned up these filters. This was a hill stream tank. In here, there are some baby uh, Hunter and Red Points in there with their mother who's taking care of them still. Uh, but I've let this get clogged. And literally, it was a happy accident. It happened while I was out of town. When I was cleaning, I cleaned this one first, and it folded over on itself. And all the red root floaters had just flourished in this tank. So had the duckweed, and I've done one round of duckweed cleaning. If you saw the video, you'll know how thick that duckweed was. So I'll have to do another round of it. Ooh, here we go. I love these guys. This is one thing why I want the water to be calm is I absolutely love my needlefish. So these little half beaks. This is a golden half beak. There's a 5 stripe and a 3 stripe, and then there's an opal. There's a bunch of different types of half beaks, and I'm hoping, other than just the golden ones that I have in here, to get more. But they like surface area. They like this slow marshy thing, and that's why I've let this. It's not so much even filtering a ton. This tank has just kind of been existing with all the substrate and all the plants, and it doesn't have a heavy fish load anymore. I've taken a lot of the fish out, moved them. So I kind of wanted to start this tank as a super quick tank. If you remember a year ago, this was a tank that had massive flow. I had two 500 gallon per hour power heads on it, and it was just, I mean, it was churning over water. I was doing lots of water changes. We had woodcats, plecos, all that kind of stuff. And so this basically made it so that it slowed down. The top got covered, and I don't like it totally covered, but I cut most of them. I had some immersed growth here, and I do really like that immersed growth look. And I think in this tank here, I think I'm gonna try to have, if you're on the rim here, maybe a stone or something coming out of it. And as you looked at the draft that I was talking about, I want to do an island about yay big with a piece of stone jutting up here and another stone jutting up here with a hollow in the center of that, and then little caves built into the substrate radiating out, and then sand on the outside, because I really love to watch the Corydoras mess around with the sand. Also, cichlids play around with the sand. And so over here in Guppy Land, in Endler Land, my blue line, I think there's going to be no guppies in the new tank, but perhaps I could put some guppies down here, or I've got the Lucas Brett's line here that I'm trying to get the tails bigger on slowly but surely after I work so hard to get tiny tails. But what I want to talk about, we'll go upstairs where the bigger tank's going to be. Sorry about the walking. Here, I'll just cover it. Everyone gets mad when I walk with the thing showing. All right. So this whole setup is getting ready to go. So that stand that I showed you will go here. This red table, we don't know yet. This downstairs probably, I think, right, honey? You have a look on your face. Honey, is this tank over here going downstairs, or is it going to light up that dark corner?
Downstairs. I like dark corners.
All right, you hear it, guys. So, this 40, the UNS tank, the rimless we just looked at, it literally has the exact, sorry guys, I'm being like one of those people using way too many hyperbole things. But basically it fits this footprint perfectly. And then it's a little taller than this. So we shall see. But there are so many options when you get a 40 gallon. And this tank I've kind of modularly treated like a 40 gallon in some ways. Also here is a tree like Jay was asking about. Look at all the shrimp in this tree first, by the way. Look at them all. There's so many shrimp. But this was one that I glued moss to and put some boost in. You can see the moss. I laid it down along the line. Watch where the right here. You can see I glued it there. I glued it there. Now just give it time to grow out, and it'll start growing out in these tendrils here. So apparently those shrimp didn't care that I was all up in their business. Very odd. All right. So in here, everybody's come out a lot more forward since I thinned out the tank. I don't know if that is less stress or more stress for everybody in the tank. But the thing that I've learned from this small tank that I want to carry on to the big 40 is that one, I really do like these Twin Star Slim Mount lights. They put out an immense amount of light. There's no CO2, no ferts really going into this tank, and yet you're getting some of the pinks and the reds and oranges. This is Limnophilia bellum that I've been meticulously cutting every month and then replanting one sprig of it. It doesn't branch off where you cut it. It just keeps growing in a single sprig. So I'm going to try to move a bunch of this into the new tank. And one of the variables when we talk about all this stuff is going to be the lighting, like I said. So we've talked about a couple different ideas. One was to hang lights down and to have spots, 2 spots. Since it's an island setup, my thought was to get one pendant light that shines down. That would mean in the center, I would be extremely algae pro, and I would want plants that want highlight. And actually in this new tank, I think there'll be some plants like these that the color will really look beautiful with highlight, or these Rotala butterflies. If they have the CO2, I'm just going to use this tank and refill it. It hasn't been up since May now. And I'm just going to refill that, and we'll have the CO2. I think I'll get on a FERT regiment. We'll do a whole episode on that. But the pendant light I thought would look really good. However, my wife did not want something hanging from the ceiling down. It is a long distance here. And then also, depending on how high you hang a pendant light or spotlights, you're going to get that shadow or that cast. And the cast could also, theoretically, since the couch is here, it could kind of cast out towards that couch and be kind of bright, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what kind of evening you're trying to have. Also, I thought I'd happily report that these koi endlers, even though I think they're guppies, they were marketed as endlers, they're having lots of babies. And so that's good. I'll have some to share soon. So I like that. The Danios, the gold ring Danios, they're mostly females. We have like 2 males. There's one of them. And the rest are all these fat egg-laden females. These 2, that one. If I put them in their own tank and killed the lights a bit, I'm sure they would lay just tons of eggs. So many projects waiting that could theoretically happen. I love these Phoenix Rasboras. I would love to have a 40-gallon tank and stock it with something like that. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know. I feel like I've done that, and I feel like we can do that in the existing 40 gallons, like maybe downstairs. Maybe we move all these guys and really detangle the jungle tank downstairs. I don't know. But the tank that's going here will have angels in it. And a center display of plants with sand around the outside. So really, if I'm lighting it, the pendant would be ideal because it would blast that center area. But at the same time, I am not carpeting that tank as much So if I wanted to do Monte Carlo or something like that in a low light tank, you can do it. You can do it if you just carefully monitor. You do need to fertilize, and it does need an okay amount of light. Like I'd say on the low, but more to medium. So in that spectrum of light, so probably like at least a $30 light is ideally what you'd have. But ideally, yeah, exactly. Element 186. Those mitered corners are great. Potato, what's up? Sorry, I've lost track of the chat. Hey, what's up, Pete? Good to see you, buddy. Abigail, for those of you with lots of tanks, what do you think the approximate cost per month? Oh, so that's going to be super dependent on your setup. So that's another thing I was going to talk about. So when you have the pendant light, I've seen pendant lights, I've seen rack lights with fans on them and stuff that grow incredible plants. I mean, if you want mini butterflies, these rotalas, you can get these blood red. You guys probably remember when this tank was all super pink and purple. That was mostly blasting this with light from this light 10 hours a day and ferts and the CO2. CO2 is going to allow plants to use, so CO2 brings in carbon, and that carbon is like little Legos. And think of the plants have little Legos in their root system, in their stalks, and if you use CO2, it gives them more building blocks in their parking garage, and they can build up on top of the building or build out or do landscaping, which would be the limbs of the tree, the colors. They can do more of that because they've got more carbon and oxygen, which helps them just physically build since carbon-based life forms. The fertilizers are things that control how fast the laborers of each plant, so their metabolism, can stack those blocks. And then the light is usually kind of what determines how many workers there are in the building, if I were to do a metaphor for a building crew. So the light determines, how much energy is going into this plant through photosynthesis. It can determine the colors because you don't need as bright of colors when you have bright light on there. You don't need the greens, the chlorophyll as much, and the plant can work to put out other colors. In some cases, also, it just adjusts for the spectrum of light. So some plants actually get redder in low light, but that's a whole confusing other thing that we can talk about in a whole episode about red plants, or that I probably have talked about. But yeah, the heater is going to be one expensive cost in your fish room. And then your lights are probably going to be, depending on how you are. So all of my fish tanks downstairs are on air lines. So it's maybe 100 watts to run all of the filters. Whereas these hang off the back filters, I wish they could make these air powered. If they had an option to air power them, wouldn't that be cool? And they could totally do it. Look at this gold nebula shrimp. He's just chilling, little baby one. Kind of fun looking. The gold nebulas, some of them get darker like that. That's from aquaticarts.com. Which, by the way, you get the discount if you want to go check them out. And there's links in the description, I believe, to 15% off. But yeah, so when you got this going on, it takes a lot of energy. The CO2 being run, the solenoid here, I mean, all of it adds up to electricity. So downstairs, those lights are all like 11 to 30 watt lights at most. And they're on a timer, which keeps the cost down too. And so the tank I had, when I was running this at full blast, this, I believe, was using 48. I want to say this is the AE, so it's stronger than the E or the EE or the SP, I think, versions. But it allowed a lot of energy in there. And then the filter I had cranking full time. Plus, I was doing all these water changes and doing lots of ferts, and the heat was on, in the spring. So the first cost in the fish room is going to be the heat. That can just suck up your bill completely. Sorry about the zoomed in thing. Completely. I mean, you could spend tons of money on that. So you want to heat the room if you can. And yeah, sunlight is free. Good call. But it also creates algae. So you got to know what you're doing with sunlight. Like this tank does great with the sunlight for the most part. It gets some in the morning and then a little bit coming in. You can see the sun setting over here in the evening. But I would say it really depends on your fish room, which ooh, that's look at this pretty evening out here. With the creepy ghost that my wife put up. Let's see if we can get a view. Sorry, I am so sidetracked. But come on, colors, show up on live stream. This is neon pink to me, and it shows up as washed out pastels on live stream. Any case, you get the idea. I love the Northwest. And then you got lights like these. These are pendant lights. Rather than one pendant, these would be spot or pendant lights. And right now, these two are up in just set up to have some extra light in here for now. This guy will be going in the new tank. So the new tank needs breathing room. So this tank has become kind of crowded, right? Just because he's 6.5 inches tall. And if you really stretch him out, he's like 8 from tip to tip with his little feeler fins. So Sergio, he will be going into the new tank with some new female, probably some Turkish green angels, I think. I don't know. But in that tank, these pendant lights, they can get really strong. Some people have 60 watts. I've seen up to 320, and that's for deeper tanks. So you want to ask yourself on those tanks, do I actually need that? Or am I growing Anubias and I just need some deep light to grow, Rotalas and things like that? None of those are going to have bright red under 2 feet of water unless you have those mega lights. And that can burn through your energy like there is no tomorrow. So I caution people to think about how much light they need. Now, the thing I do like about like a Fluval light, Fluval 3.0, they are almost $200 for a 36-inch. That's probably the way I'm gonna go. As much as I love the look of the Twin Star, you can't change the settings on the Twin Star, and I think that I think that it probably works best to have the Fluval because I can make it a highlight tank or a low light tank over time. It's got the settings. Now, the bummer part about Fluval 3.0 lights is that I would need two on an 18-inch deep by 18-inch width tank. One light will kind of cover it, and it will also, the bummer on that is that light will grow algae on the sand that's going to be on the corners. I don't want that necessarily. And even these higher lights, when I move them over the center again and I didn't suspend them, wife doesn't want them suspended from the ceilings. I agree with her. It looks like we just have crazy cords running all over. But you start to get algae. And in this tank, it's not like foggy algae or slimy algae. This tank has been so stable that it just gets this wiry algae that I'll just literally pull off every 2 weeks or something. And that's that, fortunately enough. The cribs you can see are one pair's mating again. The cribs have all grown up pretty peacefully with each other, which is cool. And these were a cross between Tinniatus Lacunja Upper Falls and the Pulcher variety, which is the bigger cheap crib. So I crossed them, and I do think that algae does look natural in the corners. You're right. So algae's not a bad thing. Like everybody gets upset when it's on their filters and things. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just fine. I enjoy looking at it. I think it's natural as well. But I think that sorry, I just got distracted by how pretty she is. So the girls have the big pot belly, the males have the spade tail. and the pointier fins. Um, all right. Hey, what's up, DS? The dimmer made by Twin Star, yeah, and it's 20 or yeah, so it's $12 to $15. So after tax, like 15 to $20. Um, yeah, I agree. You can get a dimmer from Twin Star. You can't change the red blue balance, which is what would allow me to do things like flower Anubias and Bucephalandra. And I like having that control in theory in the future. Um, this male actually, by the way, is actually trying to show off pink in his body for the females. There's a couple females lighting up here, you guys, and there's a male right here. He's the one who's spawning right now. He's already, and this one's trying too. So you're actively watching. I know this is not on subject of bigger tanks and how to equip them, but we're just gonna watch them spawn while I chat because they're really pretty and I think they're gonna light up nicely for us. Cribs, another reason why I like these bigger tanks like a 40-gallon is I can have angels and cribs and tetras or guppies, and they all occupy different water sets, right? I could also have corridoras. I have a few corridoras in here, and they just kind of mind their own business. However, in the new tank, I want to get some wood cats and things like that, and some interesting stuff. Look at this little perch where this red racer nearite snail has gone into the knot in the wood. It just looks so meant to be. Um, but yeah, so let's see here. John Gonzalez, thank you so much for the super chats, you guys, tonight. I really appreciate that. It's really going to help me speed up my fish room because lately all the money that I was going to throw towards that stuff has been sucked up by other things. So let's see here. Looking for a way to mount my 3.0, so that would be the Fluval Planet Plus, 12 inches above my 40-gallon breeder. Yeah, so what you're going to want is you're going to want struts, John Gonzalez. So they actually make pieces you can get on eBay aftermarket for Twin Star and other things, but they have a strut. Let's see, I feel like I have one somewhere over here. Oh no, it fell. So back in here, I can't reach it. They have these struts, and that there has a screw that tightens down for the more ADA style lights. But they also just leave you a flat top. So you could do a strut and you could either glue, screw, tape, mount, whatever, or find a piece of rigid plastic or maybe even aluminum and bring that up. But they do sell aftermarket parts just for mounting lights. And then you can take this piece here and under this little lip, I've mounted this before up about this high above this tank. Now for me, there's this support brace that I hate on this tank. I could probably get rid of it, but I don't want to risk it on the bow front. But that would be my advice. They also sell kits. I think up to about 12 is the max. But so like on these lights on Twin Stars, so you get this brace that comes with Twin Stars, but there's aftermarket versions, like I said. And you tighten them in this type with an Allen key or a little, what are these, little hex screws? And then this metal piece here, you set it at whatever height you want. So you can get this and these metal pole pieces, and you can get longer ones that go up to 2 feet up that I've seen. So you can buy just these struts. Now that's not helpful, but you can easily build an adapter that's just a piece where you drill 2 holes here and here. And then you could put another piece of, even if it's wood and you paint it black, or plastic, aluminum, like I said, whatever you're comfortable working with. Maybe I'll do a how-to on that. You can mount that up higher, because I'm going to do the same thing if with the Fluvals over a 40-gallon. The Fluval, like I said, Twin Star is wide enough that I could probably get away with one mounted at like a foot high, and then that much light would be diffused that far down. But with the flue vols, I'm going to mount them at least this high above the tank, I believe. But it also takes away from the look of the tank, in my opinion, to have too much of this stuff going on. And the hang off the back, I don't even want to do. That's what I was going to say is new about this one. That's what's put off the cost. If I was just doing a hang off the back, I could easily just, grab this, grab that, do a hang off the back. But for the new 40, I want to do a canister filter, so it's out of sight, out of mind in that little cabinet, along with the CO2. And true to your roots, hello, welcome. I'm glad you caught one. The twin stars do look neater than the 3.0. Yeah, I think they look a little slimmer. I mean, they're a little more like German, like Bauhaus or something, or just futuristic. They're not really that. They like they'll say slimline or whatever. They're just skinny. I mean, this looks like aluminum piping to me. That doesn't look particularly beautiful. I think like a curved like oval or a more organic shape may be less offensive to the eye. But beyond all that, to me, if I've got a big tank that we spent good money on, shout out to DS for helping me secure that tank at the pet store down Sierra Fish and Pets down in Renton, Washington. Uh, I got a tank the size of this table, bigger than this tank, and it's got the beveled edges. It's got the rimless, the low light. So I wanted to make it look nice and clean. And so with the flue vols, I think I'll probably be doing an episode in a long roundabout way showing how I mount the lights, how I decide to do that. And so that might be some aftermarket parts. I might start with one light just to get it going and just use low to medium with the flue vol 3.0 light doing the bar across. And then maybe I'll get the second one later on. But I'll have the CO2 and everything already. I need to still buy the canister filter. So that's what I'm using you guys' money towards is the light and the canister filter are the things. Oh, and the substrate. That's the other thing is this new tank, even the $50 bag of Eco Complete Amazonia, that's not going to cover it. When I was looking at it, that bag lays flat at an inch thick, maybe an inch thick, and it lays flat at the bottom, and you could put two bags side by side. So you probably need four bags at least when all is said and done of the, or at least let's say three bags, 3 to 4 bags. What I'm going to do differently than my other tanks on these bigger tanks on the 40 gallon and up, I like to do. You get this stratification of the soil, which you'll get mulm and dirt and debris that breaks down just down in here. And then you get bacteria lines when you can see the tank. And so I'm going to do gravel or I'll probably do sand first so that the gravel doesn't push down on the glass. And then, so I'll probably get a bag of sand and just do like a half an inch layer of that, then probably an inch layer or 3/4 of an inch layer of gravel where the water can move a little bit and where the roots can still bust through and go wherever they want. And then probably an inch and a half of the, I like Amazonia, but maybe we'll use flue vol, stratum, something like that. I'm going to use something that is active substrate though, and I recommend that. I like that. If you're doing a planted tank, it's going to be up more than a year. Like just do it right the first time. Don't have to worry about adding more stuff. You have to add way less chemicals and you just get way brighter plants. I mean, look at the density. You guys saw how overgrown the tank downstairs is. You saw this. This is all with just the eco or with the I'm getting tongue tied with the Amazonia 2. It's called Amazonia 2. It's like a little bit more tan than the regular Amazonia that's like a darker coffee color. Let's see here. I've seen people use PVC pipe to hang lights. Yeah, definitely. That's also an option. Zen Ginger, hello. Aquaballs, hello. GRB, hello. KP, um, nice. Yeah, I could do a paludarium. You know what I mean? I could change this into a paludarium. I know you're kind of joking around, KP, but that would actually be like an interesting idea of what to do with this tank. Although, like, I really love the stock load in this tank. I think I want to take all these endlers out, give them a tank downstairs, and then or guppies, and then I just love these nano fish from Southeast Asia. I almost decided, you can see the males have a nice purple and magenta color on them on these gold ring danios. Most people don't see that. Most people don't, they're not their bright fish, you know, in their tank. But when they are set up with other fish like pandagaras and little loaches and things. There's panda loaches in here. There's multi-stripe loaches, little border barbs. There's multi-stripe loaches. Then there's the erythromicron and the other the danios. So you've got all sorts of stuff that they're used to in here, and plants that they're used to. And really, that can go a long way. A biotope tank, really, you can see some behavior and colors that you just don't get other places. And these gold ring danios, aka tin winnie danios, are one example of a fish that looks like a boring silver and slightly copper fish, and in its right habitat, it looks just beautiful. It's just a rainbow trout level of reflection on it, and I like those subtleties. I could do a whole tank of those. What are my thoughts on a tank that's modeled after Mr. Aqua, 12-gallon long, but that's 6 feet long? Uh, six 6 inch wide by 10-inch deep and 72 long. Hmm. Huh. That's an interesting tank. I would love to play with a tank like that. I would definitely do an Iwagumi style scape on something like that. You're not going to have any light that will run from here to there, which is 6 feet in here. But that would be a very slim tank, like a mantle tank or something. You could do 3 spots up high enough that they shine down on the tank with some overcast. Um, and then you could do kind of plant clusters in 3 groups ish. Or you could just plant it however you want, probably with, if you did that, you'd have enough light crossing over. But I would tend to do low light plants, and I'd put CO2 in it, and I'd also have a power head at each end, or a hang off the back at one side, hiding kind of hidden behind something, and something to really push that water around, because that's a long length of a tank. And so something to at least push it one way, it'll bounce off the other wall and come back. Um, so I would do something like that, but then I would do maybe carpeting. So moss, Monte Carlo, baby tears if you have enough light and you're running that CO2. And then also you could do whatever you want. With that, I would probably do immersed growth too. So you could do some rocks in there. You could have some plants like this Ludwigia that will grow up out of Repens red, super red, that will grow up out of the tank and look nice. Bacopa is another one that grows nicely up out of the tank. But yeah, you could do that in groves so that it kind of looked like a tree line for the 6 feet. I don't know. That's an intriguing idea. If you make a 6 foot long tank, that would be really interesting. 6 foot long skinny tank. I would love to see that. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would probably put a lot of shrimp in it. That would be the other thing I would do. Put the power heads mid, like, so that the most of the water is moving up top and not just all over. The other thing you could do if you didn't want to have a moving water tank is you could do you could do a ton of these Phoenix rasboras. Like, they take up no bioprint. You could probably put 100 in that tank, no problem. That long with that much room to swim. I mean, a dozen in this tank hang out right there. You could do some Pandagaras that would clean, and then some mosses and Monte Carlos and things. You could just kind of do a sprawling carpet tank with, if you wanted to do lower light, and then just do some crypt plants, maybe a few pieces of wood with some Bucephalandra or something on that, or moss on that. I don't know. I think that would be really cool. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that uh, in action. Lighting that is probably going to be one of the tricks. You could always do two 220, or I guess 324-inch lights. That seems like overkill. I mean, 6 inches of tank is so perfectly spaced. You could run a light all the way across it, especially if you have a shelf, or the ceiling if it's up high on a mantle or something. I guess you could do that, but then you'd want higher light plants. You'd want to be doing more water changes and that sort of thing. My goal with this new setup is, of course, we'll have to do a lot of water changes at first, but then I don't want to have to deal with a ton of water changes. I want to have like this tank where I basically just top things off, like, and don't have algae blooms all the time. There's definitely something to be said for not having to fight with algae at all. I've not fought with any algae in this tank for since I got back from Florida. That you can see the plants. Some of them might not have enough light for their taste, and they just kind of get, or they might have not have enough like potassium. Sometimes get the yellowing from that, or phosphates, which helps do their metabolism. But yeah, I think that it's worth those little things, or little holes in the leaf, so worth it over getting just crazy algae. You could also do a bunch of these real low tiger lotus tiger lilies. I'm really intrigued by that. Oh, Goose Not Maverick, you're an electrician? Yeah, well, I'm gonna shut up about the lights. I'm sure you'll figure that out. Um, yeah. Yeah, having a waterfall that spills into the aquarium, that's a pretty cool idea, Alan. Um, that would be cool to have that long tank, and then have a tank like this that overflows if you cut a notch out of it or something, or made a spillway and then splash down, and you had like a calm, tranquil pond from what came above. And up above, you could do some bigger fish, like some, I don't know, angels, or something like that. That would be really cool, Alan. So then down below, you could have the itsy bitsy teeny weeny nano fish. You could do something like CPDs, or something that's just kind of subtly beautiful that moves around. I like schooling fish. I've made several videos on schooling nano fish. I would stick with nano fish in that tank just for bioload, and then I would have them though, just definitely a lot of them, and I think that would be the best way to go. And then with that water movement, you would have the oxygenation, or the spillway. Either way, you'd have a ton of oxygenation. At the tank above, you could do something like gouramis, like pearl gouramis, or something like that, if you wanted to stay in the same sphere of things. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. Alan, yeah, I agree. If you did, even if you did like 2 feet, a 2 foot tank like this, which 20 gallons ish, spilling into that tank, if you were able to just like Dremel out a piece here, or make a spillway of some sort, however you'd want to do it. You could also shim the back of the tank and just make sure that there's a strut that makes it. There's lots of ways online. You can see how people have made tanks spill over. Or even just like you could do a hang off the back type thing and just modify it with a pipe so that it goes over the edge. But that would be super cool. I would love to see any of that in action. So yeah, like I was saying, thank you so much for the super chats tonight, guys. I know it's been a little rambly. I got to get back into the swing of staying on topic. You guys know me; I'm not the best at that. But hang off the backs. I could have just salvaged all that stuff from what I have, but I really want to show you guys setting up a tank differently than the way I've set up a lot of these tanks on live streams and in videos in the past. I want to show you something new. I do like the rock mountain tanks, or the big sticks that come out. I am partial to those. But I've never had a tank since the channel started that's like cichlid size oriented or has like a catfish or something. And now 40 gallons isn't a big tank, okay? But 40 to 75, I'd call those mid-sized tanks. And you can start bringing in interesting things like Raphael catfish or actually that's probably a little big. But the Obduino, is that how you say it? I don't know how to say it. The African three-stripe catfish, glass catfish that gets, like yay big, and they look pretty cool. You can get all your plecos in tanks like that. Oh, what's interesting is my long, fancy tailed plecos have babies downstairs in that really clustered tank. And I found two babies the other day, and now I can't find them. Yeah, rock piles definitely. Chara, if you have rock piles, or as I like to do on these bigger tanks, instead of like a little like pebble rock piles and little huts, like I have those terracotta huts back in there for all the oh, and here is those the one that Jay Blair hooked me up with, the pair of guppies. And I actually want to see them mix with every other guppy in here, and he seems to be the talk of the walk. But yeah, so the angelfish, I don't want him to be stressed like that and putting his fins down. I don't. I want him to have room to go. So the new tank, as much as like I'd love to put cribs in the new tank, like do a big colony of these cribs, I don't think I'm gonna move them. I think I'm just gonna leave them here because they're really happy here. Like there's 8 adult cribs in here, somehow coexisting and not fighting each other at all, with a bunch of plecos and this angelfish, which was too much. Like now that these cribs have grown up, uh, there's definitely a bioload issue on this tank. I'll need to do more water changes than I do. The nitrates are creeping up slowly with the plecos and the cribs. Cribs can eat a lot too. Um, but yeah, so in the new tank, I'm looking at stocking it with the angels, and then I'm thinking either rams or epistos, but doing a very similar situation to what's going on here, and building a bunch of hides for them in that center island of the tank. I think I'm going to move some plants out of here, like the Logonandra meboldi pink. Um, I'll move that, and then I also want to put a lot more sword plants in this other tank. And none of those necessarily need a ton of light. I mean, they like light, but they don't need like obscene amounts. As well as like a Madagascar lace plant, and then some of the other more delicate plants from other tanks. And then, of course, I can't help myself. I'm gonna move this whole rack of Anubias and Boost that I was growing. It can move. And then I'll clean up this tank with the Bulbitis and the Boost and the Anubias caufifolia that I've got growing all over. The Asian Bulbitis back there. So yeah, there's a lot of things I'm excited about in this new tank, and I really appreciate the chat money tonight, guys. As always, Alan, you're too kind. As always, Jay, you're way too kind. DS, all y'all. So I appreciate that, and I hope I helped answer some questions. I should have probably narrowed this topic down to a just talking about like filtration on medium-sized tanks. So I realized I bit off more than I can chew, and I kind of just talked about this tank. So I might change the title of like discussing hardware on the new 40-gallon tank, because that's kind of what I ended up only getting to. Other than that, hopefully we can have more live streams soon. Sorry that it's just life's been life, but I still love the topic. I still love the channel. I love you guys for hanging out and hanging out. If you guys have ideas of what you'd like to discuss, like me to discuss, just let me know. And we can cover those things. So I got to get out of here. We got to watch some scary movies, my wife and I. Does that sound right, honey? She says, yep. But thank you so much for the support, for watching, and I will be back hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday with another live stream. That's the goal. And then we'll by next month I'll have it narrowed down what the schedule will be. Before you go, you wouldn't happen to know if dry air could be an issue for lily plants? I don't know for sure, but I know most plants like humidity over not humidity if they can have the choice, except for like certain cactuses and stuff. And even then they like humidity if it's cool out. So like night air, they actually count on humidity for their condensation and water. Lilies, I don't know offhand. There's a lot of kinds of lilies. I know peace lilies do like a little bit of condensation and humidity. But that being said, I don't know for all lilies, so I'm sorry. But hopefully that can get you started. I bet you can Google that one too. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. So good to see so many familiar names and faces in here. I will talk to you guys later, either video or another live stream. Hopefully, setting up the tank, ooh, getting it cycled. I need to buy more substrate, like I said, and then get the filter worked out and build that stand. It's a self-assemble, so IKEA times 10. That's going to be fun. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care of yourself, the people around you, and your fish, your plants, your animals. It all comes back around. I mean, if you do those things, and if everyone else does those things, even if, half the people fall out, we're still taking care of everybody. So, all right, guys, stay safe. I'll talk to you later, and swim on, guys. Bye.